The Cookie Lady by Philip K. Dick. "Where are you going, Bubba?" Ernie Mill shouted from across the street, fixing papers for his route. "No place," Bubba Searle said. "You gonna see your old lady friend?" Ernie laughed and laughed. "What do you go visit that old lady for? Let us in on it." Bubba went on. He turned the corner and went down Elm Street. Already he could see the house at the end of the street, set back a little on the lot. The front of the house was overgrown with weeds, old dry weeds that rustled and chattered in the wind. The house itself was a little grey box, shabby and unpainted, the porch steps sagging. There was an old weather-beaten rocking chair on the porch with a torn piece of cloth hanging over it. Bubba went up the walk. As he started up the rickety steps, he took a deep breath. He could smell it, the wonderful warm smell, and his mouth began to water. His heart thudding with anticipation, Bubba turned the handle of the bell. The bell grated rustily on the other side of the door. There was a silence for a time, then the sounds of someone stirring. Mrs. Drew opened the door. She was old, very old, a little dried-up old lady, like the weeds that grew along the front of the house. She smiled down at Bubba, holding the door wide for him to come in. "You're just in time," she said. "Come on inside, Bernard. You're just in time. They're just now ready." Bubba went to the kitchen door and looked in. He could see them, resting on a big blue plate on top of the stove. Cookies. A plate of warm, fresh cookies right out of the oven. Cookies with nuts and raisins in them. "How do they look?" Mrs. Drew said. She rustled past him into the kitchen. "And maybe some cold milk too? You like cold milk with them." She got the milk pitcher from the window box on the back porch. Then she poured a glass of milk for him and set some of the cookies on a small plate. "Let's go into the living room," she said. Bubba nodded. Mrs. Drew carried the milk and the cookies in and set them on the arm of the couch. Then she sat down in her own chair, watching Bubba plop himself down by the plate and begin to help himself. Bubba ate greedily, as usual, intent on the cookies, silent except for chewing sounds. Mrs. Drew waited patiently until the boy had finished, and his already ample sides bulged that much more. When Bubba was done with the plate, he glanced towards the kitchen again, at the rest of the cookies on the stove. "Wouldn't you like to wait until later for the rest?" Mrs. Drew said. "All right," Bubba agreed. "How were they?" "Fine." "That's good." She leaned back in her chair. "Well, what did you do in school today?" "How did it go?" "All right." The little old lady watched the boy look restlessly around the room. "Bernard," she said presently, "won't you stay and talk to me for a while?" He had some books on his lap, some school books. "Why don't you read to me from your books? You know, I don't see too well anymore, and it's a comfort to me to be read to." "Can I have the rest of the cookies after?" "Of course." Bubba moved over towards her, to the end of the couch. He opened his books. World Geography, Principles of Arithmetic, Hoyt's Speller. "Which do you want?" She hesitated. "The geography." Bubba opened the big blue book at random. Peru. "Peru is bounded on the north by Ecuador and Colombia, on the south by Chile, and on the east by Brazil and Bolivia. Peru is divided into 3 main sections. These are first." The little old lady watched him read, his fat cheeks wobbling as he read, holding his finger next to the line. She was silent, watching him, studying the boy intently as he read, drinking in each frown of concentration, every motion of his arms and hands. She relaxed, letting herself sink back in her chair. He was very close to her, only a little way off. There was only the table and lamp between them. How nice it was to have him come. He had been coming for over a month now, ever since the day she had been sitting on her porch and seen him go by and thought to call to him, pointing to the cookies by her rocker. Why had she done it? She did not know. She had been alone so long that she found herself saying strange things and doing strange things. She saw so few people. Only when she went down to the store, or the mailman came with her pension check, or the garbage men. The boy's voice droned on. She was comfortable, peaceful, and relaxed. The little old lady closed her eyes and folded her hands in her lap. And as she sat dozing and listening, something began to happen. The little old lady was beginning to change, her grey wrinkles and lines dimming away. As she sat in the chair, she was growing younger. The thin, fragile body filling out with youth again. The grey hair thickened and darkened, colour coming to the wispy strands. Her arms filled too, the mottled flesh turning a rich hue, as it had been once many years before. Mrs. Drew breathed deeply, not opening her eyes. She could feel something happening, but she did not know just what. Something was going on. She could feel it, and it was good. But what it was, she did not exactly know. It had happened before. Almost every time the boy came and sat by her, especially of late, since she had moved her chair nearer to the couch. She took a deep breath. How good it felt, the warmth, fullness. A breath of warmth inside her cold body for the first time in years. In her chair, the little old lady had become a dark-haired matron of perhaps 30, a woman with full cheeks and plump arms and legs. Her lips were red again, her neck even a little too fleshy, as it had been once in the long-forgotten past. Suddenly the reading stopped. Bubba put down his book and stood up. "I have to go," he said. "Can I take the rest of the cookies with me?" She blinked, rousing herself. The boy was in the kitchen filling his pockets with cookies. She nodded, dazed, still under the spell. The boy took the last cookies. He went across the living room to the door. Mrs. Drew stood up. All at once the warmth left her. She felt tired and very dry. She caught her breath, breathing quickly. She looked down at her hands, wrinkled, thin. "Oh," she murmured. Tears blurred her eyes. It was gone. Gone again as soon as he moved away. She tottered to the mirror above the mantel and looked at herself. Old, faded eyes stared back. Eyes deep set in a withered face. Gone, all gone, as soon as the boy had left her side. "I'll see you later," Bubba said. "Please," she whispered, "please come back again. Will you come back?" "Sure," Bubba said listlessly. He pushed the door open. "Goodbye." He went down the steps. In a moment, she heard his shoes against the sidewalk. He was gone.